Hey, Auntie.
What's up, baby? You know you can tell Auntie anything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We are your aunties, where you can tell us anything, but there's a way to say everything. And tonight is a very special night, right? Because we're celebrating the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s national holiday. And we have a lot to say about that, and we will be saying a lot about that. I'm Paige Means Hopper. I am the author of Healing the Wounds of American Slavery and the founder of the movement of the same name. And we are just so excited to be here, but I'm going to go ahead and let each of these aunties introduce themselves, and then I'm going to introduce our special guest tonight. So go ahead, either Auntie Rosemary or Auntie Genoa, just take it away.
Okay, hey, I'm going to take it away right now. I am Auntie Rosemary. And welcome, because we are going to have a treat for you. We give of ourselves, and that is the gift that we have, our talents, that are these God-given gifts. And we welcome you with this topic tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Auntie Genoa, and my sister watched the show, so she told me I need to update my elevator pitch. So I'm also a published author. I'm an artist, a songstress, and a poet. And your own experience is not necessarily the best teacher. Somebody else's is, if you will listen. And so welcome.
Wow, I like that. That is an elevation, indeed. So I see that we're having a little bit of a glitchy technological situation.
Oh.
Not a problem.
No, fish
So, Auntie Genoa. Oh, hi, Angela.
Hi, Auntie Angela. How you doing?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank goodness we have. This is
Okay.
Welcome back.
Great. All right, here we are. Now let's get it. All right. First of all, I want to say good evening to Jacqueline Yvonne. She is one of our, she's going to be on here one day, but she is a prolific artist and author in her own right. And she's just amazing. She's one of our biggest fans. And so thank you. Hi. Thank you for being here. And now that the aunties have introduced themselves, let's welcome Angela Mayberry Duncan. Angela is amazing. She's a 2-book author so far. She wrote one book, Nyella is a Real Princess. You'll have to tell us about that one. It's great. And then the other is Focused, a 30-day strategic prayer and devotional guide. And she's also, guess what, the host of her own show. Her show is called Focused, and it's where she brings a fresh perspective to the life of believers. She tackles some tough topics sometimes. You need to go check her out. So Angela, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly. I can see you clearly. You're perfect.
Great. I hear some music. I don't know if that was coming from me or from you guys. Is that
That's
me?
us. That's our background music. Try to keep it live.
Okay.
So listen, this is going to be interesting. This show was kind of germinating in my mind even as we're coming on tonight, right? Because what I want to do is bring a different perspective to the way that we celebrate our luminaries, whether they're political figures or otherwise. And for me, I'm going to be reading from the book as usual, right? But for me, we're here to celebrate an extraordinary life, not necessarily a political figure or a civil rights activist. Yes, he was those things, and he opened the gates for civil rights for all of us, right? We're not where we want to be, but we're not where we were because of the life that he gave. But I want to talk about, how we go into February celebrating the same luminaries every time. And there's nothing wrong with that. They should be celebrated. But we always talk about, I have a dream, and then I don't mean to make fun or light, but that, that's how it kind of gets to be like that after a while, kind of rote, right? And then with Rosa Parks, all we really talk about is how she sat down because she was tired, and that sparked the bus boycott movement. And then with Malcolm X, he's got a couple of highlights that we kind of point to, which is the chickens coming home to roost after President Kennedy died, and then also by any means necessary, introducing violence as a way to resolve the issues that nonviolence seem to not be getting at. So I want to just do something special and different for our brother. First of all, I want us to recognize that he wasn't just Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. before he was doctor. And so, everything that he did was from a spiritual context. Everything he did was from a scriptural context. As a matter of fact, when he delivered the I have a dream, not the I have a dream speech, but I've been to the mountaintop, that comes directly from scripture, and it is prophecy. Yes. Right? Because he's talking about how, say, there's a one even playing field, one place where we're all standing side by side, right? But then there are the crooked places, there are the rough places, there are the mountains, and there are the valleys. And so people are standing in different places. And he's talking about all of us standing side by side, so that when we look to the left or the right of us, we see each other eye to eye. That comes from Isaiah 40:5-6. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. And it reads as follows. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. So he's talking about his God saying that this is how I'm going to even everything out. I'm coming back, and this is what I want to see when I come back. I want to see everybody playing, fair, and I want to see everyone on an equal playing field. And so that's what his life was dedicated to. That's what his sacrifices were dedicated to. So as usual, I'm going to start with reading a little bit out of my book. Please, audience, join in at any time with any questions, comments. If you have jokes, just keep them clean. We'll appreciate those too. But I'm just saying, please join in and participate. This is for you. So we're here to answer your questions and your comments and address anything that's up for you as we go through this session. But I want to tell you that everything that we do is based on this little book here, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, written by yours truly. And I'm going to read tonight from pages 20 and 21. And it reads, there are people who honestly believe that we are free to take advantage of all America has to offer, just like anyone else. And in some ways, they are right. Sure, there's a system of American laws that provide for everyone to enjoy the same types of freedoms to reach for their dreams. But then there's another system operating concurrently. This is why there are still so many of us living in poverty, living in mental distress, who are physically sick and spiritually and emotionally depleted. Some of us have done well, educationally, financially, politically, and otherwise. But too many of us hobbled across the starting line of this third millennium, crippled by the belief that there is absolutely no need for us to refer to the past, slavery. When we ignore the past, we're doomed to repeat it. About as deeply as we'll go is a quick re-examination each February, Black History Month, the shortest month of the year. We dust off our proverbial box of historical Black legends like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dreams, Rosa Parks' rebellion, Malcolm X's bibliographical intellect, and a few other historical luminaries of our past. We revel in the shine of our glory through this narrow historical lens for the most part, and when the month is over, we return them to the box, shut it tightly, and shelve it until next year. So that is why I want us to take a deeper dive into who this man is or was, right? And in some sense still is, because his dream is living on. His legacy is still living on. But I want to take a quick look at the superhuman sacrifices that were made for him to do what he did, in spite of the fact that he had a family, he had a wife, He had children, a mother, a father, grandparents. He was a man. He was our brother, right? If we were living in that era, then he would be our brother.
Yes.
And so, any comments on that, aunties, about how we kind of do that? We kind of tend to put the person on a pedestal and not look behind the scenes of their actual life at what they really had to give in order for us to receive what we got.
Well, I'm pretty sure that when he was first starting out, especially being a member of the congregation, because I know I love my pastor, and I'm pretty sure that the congregants was like, oh my goodness, we gotta pray. Pastor is doing something, and they want to shield him because those were like perilous times back then. But then he was one of those people that marched forward, and so they had to march forward on their knees praying if they couldn't go with him. You know what I'm saying? And he was a father, so I'm pretty sure those children was like, hey, where's daddy going? Where's daddy? Is he coming home for dinner? You know? Yeah.
And his wife having to remain at home with her children. I know that Rosemary has some insights from a letter that she read about how he was really wanting her to be present with him.
But you know what? I just want to say really quickly, you know, Martin Luther King, you know, his father, his parents, they set that foundation, you know, for Martin to be able to be, in my eyes, that sacrificial lamb. He set a foundation by him being an example of being a reverend, you know, getting married, you know, and his wife, you know, supporting him and everything. And I'm sure that it wasn't easy because you're sharing your husband, your family with the world. And those times, and even these times, it was really, really tough. And, you know, your life was on the line every day. And, but you still had to get out there. You still had to make a point, because civil rights, it was not justice for us. It was not. So someone had to step up. And like I said, in my eyes, he was a sacrificial lamb. And he stepped up and he said, you know, with the letters that he wrote back and forth with his wife, and, you know, and he wanted support from her. She was pregnant, knowing the danger that he was in, you know, and I'm not focusing on the negative. I'm just saying what he had to endure back in the days when they was calling you the N-word right out loud. Back in the days when they would just pick up a water hose or pick up a bottle or a brick or whatever and just freely can do what they needed to do. One of my, I had an actor in our troupe, in our company, and she was telling me, you know, she was a little bit older, and she said when she was a child, you know, she was in that whole thing with the water hose and everything, and she said that they didn't even care. She said the water was so strong that it peeled off their skin. The dogs and everything, you know, and I'm not trying to go to the negative, but we know, we've seen the videos, we've seen the clips. Just imagine being the wife, knowing what her husband had to endure.
And that's where I want to hit at. That's where, what is that noise?
Sound like somebody eating chips. Can I have some?
Is somebody eating behind the scenes over there?
No, I don't think so.
I was thinking.
Okay. DY. Someone's mic, he's saying. It's someone's mic. Someone's rubbing against their mic or doing something. I don't know. Okay. So anyway, we're just going to continue. So, this can't happen.
Let's, you know what? We got this.
We're gonna have to just keep going.
Exactly.
So that's what I wanted to hit at, is exactly the point that you made, was that, you know, we see the old black and white footage of the fire hoses, and we see the dogs attacking the people, and we We see all of the things. But at the end of the day, his wife was at home seeing that too.
Yes.
You know, and worried about her husband, his father, his mother, worried about their son, his grandparents worried about their grandchild, and his children worried about their father.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just interesting to me how, you know, and again, you know, you were bringing up, I don't want to just go to the negative, but in our culture, what we tend to do is we tend to put on this mask of power and strength.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And it's definitely valid in many cases where we need to put on that. But every now and then we need to get a little vulnerable. We need to get a little transparent. We need to look beneath the surface of what we think we see and stand in the other person's shoes and sit in their sacrifice.
Yes.
So that we can see. We do the same thing with Jesus, right?
Amen.
And this was a man of God who was going out to make a difference in the world with the people that he was there to affect. So that's really good. That's a good point. Anyone else want to make a comment about that?
Well, I was just going to add in, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to add in, like you said, one of the things that always amazed me with Dr. King's was that it did parallel Jesus to some extent. So that was his Bible and Jesus.
Okay, you're really breaking up on your audio. Your audio's really breaking up there. I don't know what's happening, but
yeah, I think she was talking about how she said that his life did parallel Jesus. You know, she brought that point up, and I agree. I agree with that.
Can you
when he made decisions to go out and go to the officials, you know, he knew what to expect. He knew he had to be prayed up. He knew he had to have people around him. And like I said, it goes back to the foundation because he had the education where was no doubt his wife was educated, where was no doubt that he was able to communicate on all levels to any government official, any person that was of a greater importance back then, presidents, senators. He was able to communicate on all levels.
yeah,
And that goes back to the foundation, you know, and his wife as well was able to do the same things because of her letters that she wrote to different officials and different things. She was doing her part as well. A lot of people don't know that. So like I said, you know, before, the foundation of what his parents set out is what helped. And a lot of people around him as well. So, you know, I look at it like this, foundation first, you know, because you're gonna tackle some things in your life and you got to be grounded. And he was that. He was grounded.
he was grounded.
How to speak. And his speeches, we all know, give me chills to this day.
Yes, he was very well prepared, wasn't he? I mean, and when you think about how old he was in his 20s when he started. Come on. And then he was 39 when he was assassinated.
Yeah.
So you know that his people were cultivating, they were supporting, the whole village was there around him, helping to build that solid foundation. And I think that's so important to look at, Auntie Rose, is that, you know, that was part of the sacrifice. Was that other people his age were probably out partying and doing whatever they did, but he was being built and edified and readied to go out and do this tremendous job that he did. And, you know, we don't always know what we're being prepared for.
Yes.
You know, we can be going through school and going through, you know, prayer and going through all manner of preparation. Right? Educationally, professionally, and otherwise. And we just we wonder, why are we going through this? And I'm toiling and I'm working and I'm working. It was the same way with this book. It was really the same way. And I kept wondering, when is it coming out? When will I be able to talk about it? When? What am I really doing? Right. And now I'm beginning to see what it is that was really in the plans all along. So
it's divine.
Go ahead.
It's divine. It's divine.
You know, it's divine. You have a divine appointment. He had a divine appointment.
exactly.
He had a
But what I
divine appointment.
wanted to get at too was, you know, and even with his foundation hit, the people around him, the people that stepped up, because you know it's background players that, you know, not even mentioned, they stepped up and they provided homes for people that was coming to meet with him and other officials and other leaders, and people had to open up their homes.
Yes, yes.
We had to open up our homes. We had to bring in strangers that we didn't know. We welcomed them. We gave them, you know, fresh clothes and a fresh place to stay and just everything. I mean, it all came together. You
Right,
know,
right.
he had to, when he traveled, you know, again, you know, they couldn't stay at the different hotels and around the cities. They had to, we had to rely on each other. So it all came together. And like I said, those were the people that's the unknown heroes and sheroes
Right. And
of
then
the day.
think of the funny little moments, like you just mentioned how he might have to go to somebody's house and stay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, back then you couldn't just roll up in a Holiday Inn or roll up in a hotel if you're Black. You know, that's what the whole Green Book was all about, right?
Yeah.
And so he did have to stay at several different places. Just imagine if you stayed at somebody's house and they couldn't cook.
Oh
I'm
my.
just saying, you know, the little things like that. Or could he really
Right.
trust everywhere he was staying? Because when you think about the Panthers and COINTELPRO and how they had, you know, infiltrators and spies in there,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and literally people were being assassinated behind that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we don't know that that's not what happened to him. We don't know. But I'm
We
just
don't.
saying, you know, that every day was perilous. You're right. You know, and even that food could have been perilous at times. I'm just saying. But I'm just saying that this was a man. This was a human being, you know, and he had to face everything that we have to face as human beings. One of the things that I've been talking about lately, and I'm really surprised that people don't know it, but you know, when we don't talk about it, we only talk about those magic moments.
Right.
Then the rest of it falls to the wayside.
Yeah.
But the night before he gave the "I've been to the mountaintop" speech, he was in Memphis for the trash collectors. They were going on strike, and they called for Martin Luther King Jr. to be there, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to be there. And they had a rally at a church the night before the strike. And he was sick. He wasn't feeling well at all. And so he was with his guys, we know who was, you know, there with him, Jesse Jackson and the others. And he went to bed. And he said, y'all go on to the church. They don't need me. You just go ahead, tell them what they need to hear, you know, and about where we're going to meet, and get them motivated and give them some strength and edification. And I'll join y'all tomorrow. Well, when they went to the church, everybody wanted to hear from him.
Yeah.
Whether he was sick or not. And so his compadres came back and they said, listen, man, they want you. We're out there doing our best rah-rah and it's not working. They want you. And so they literally roused him out of bed. He got up, got dressed, and went to the church or the hall or wherever it was that they were meeting there in Memphis. And he gave that speech that was based on, like I said, Isaiah 40, 4-5. And at the end of that, you can tell that he knows, first of all, that this is a fateful time right here. He even says in the speech, I may not get there with you. When people listen to that speech, do they know that he knew? Because he says, I may not get there with you. I've been to the mountaintop. I know what's about to go down. I'm prophesying to you based on the word of God, what's about to go down. However, I may not get there with you. And as they're taking him away from the podium, you could see he's sweating. He's just physically not feeling well. And they kind of grab him under his arms and take him back to his seat when he's done. He's saying something as he turns from the mic to go back to his seat. We'll never know what he said. I have tried. I have adjusted the audio. I've gone to my audio engineer. I want to know what were those last words at that mic. And you know what? We'll never know. I can guess, but we'll never know. But the next day is when he was assassinated. Do we know the sacrifices? Do we really get who this man was?
It reminded me of Moses when he been protecting the children of Israel, and God showed him the promised land, and he didn't get to go either.
Ooh, true.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought about that too. So you see the parallels, and people don't want to talk about that because they don't want to. I would say that they don't want to give credit where credit is due in terms of where he was getting his wisdom from.
Exactly.
We talk about Mahatma Gandhi. We talk about his religion. We talk about Mother Teresa. We'll just easily say her religion. We talk about Malcolm X. We'll talk about his religion. We'll talk about everyone else's religion.
Yeah.
But we want to drop off the Reverend from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and forget where he came from. Welcome back, Angela. Did you want to chime in on any of this? I mean, because you have small children. So I want to hear from a mom's perspective of small children. How do you address these things with your little people?
So good that you even said that. Y'all can hear me okay? I know.
Yes. Excellent.
Okay, great. I'm like, we gonna get this done.
That's right.
So,
one way or another.
I'll tell you what's so deep is that it's funny you said that because I was going to mention my children. My son's birthday was yesterday.
No.
The same day as Martin Luther King.
Happy birthday, little guy.
Yes, he turned 10. But when I was in the hospital, I had him a week early. And I don't know why. I know why. It was the Holy Spirit, but I went to my phone to see who was born on the same day as him. And Dr. Martin Luther King, and immediately the Holy Spirit said that wasn't by accident, because he was due the 22nd. He said that wasn't by accident. He said because he's going to be a world changer too.
Wow.
So always stuck in my spirit that so that's one of the things that I've explained to him is that you're going to have, I really believe you're going to have a call like Dr. Martin Luther King, and he was a world changer. He did all of these things, and like you said, my children, because we teach them the word and because we talk about the Bible and they watch different things, they know the sacrifice that Jesus made. So they're not in any way, they haven't been shielded from that. And they get the agony and, to some extent what Jesus went through. And so it's in this way about Martin Luther King and explaining to him, like to them, they don't have a world without integration. That's not, they don't understand that world. I really don't. I really was integrated, and, segregation was more so for my mom and them, but I understand it a lot more because of my mother and because of my uncles and things like that. They don't know that. So it's hard for them to fathom and to understand a world where they can't play with their white friends, where they couldn't play with, people of other color, or they were shunned or they were dismissed for different reasons. So I think it is important, to continue to have that conversation, but we have it in a different way because they have to see it. It's hard for them to understand from an experiential standpoint. So I have to from a historical standpoint, but to still understand how it feels. Maybe it's how it feels when someone knows you're a Christian and they don't agree with that. Or maybe they know that you're a follower of Jesus and they shun you because of that. Oh, you're boring. You're this, you're goody two shoes. Those things happen. So the shunning and the shame and things like that still come. It may just come as a different way. So I try and use that to explain that this is how they felt. And they were mistreated. They were beaten. They were bruised. Same thing like Jesus. He was bruised for our iniquity. So that's
really good.
If that makes sense. But
no, that does make sense. And that's really good. And also what's really awesome is that your son understands that he was born on the day of this great man. Yeah. And so as he gets older, because he's so smart, when he gets older, he'll do his own research.
I believe it.
And things will come into focus because you're right. From a young person's POV, there's no way that you can grasp it all. But with parents like you and your husband, you're not hiding, you're not shielding him from it either. So as the information comes, he'll get it piece by piece. Absolutely. I really love that. And I also love that you wrote your book for your daughter. Tell us a little bit about that in relationship to, civil rights and why that came up for you.
Well, representation matters.
Yes, it does.
The Lord even told me that representation matters. We're all created in his image. And so with that said, one of the things that I noticed as a parent, when you become a notice everything. Right. You may not have noticed it as much before, but I'm a former teacher. So I noticed things from a teacher's perspective, but it's a whole nother ball game when you become a parent.
Yeah.
Because you're so engrossed in seeing everything that they're being exposed to and how this affects them and all those things. And so most of the princesses and the Disney princesses and any princess you see, you know, are just not our shade. They are just don't look like it.
Right.
And my daughter was going through a season where she was looking for validation in toys, like we all did. You know, we had Barbie and the blonde-headed Barbie, and then when the
Right.
American Pro came out, we were all like, OMG, and the brown, and you know, couldn't believe it. Well, it's still like that to some extent. There's so much more representation, but there is a lean to one side more than the other. And so it was really just concerning to me. So I took it to the Lord in prayer, and I said, God, what do you want me to do? You know, what do I do about this? Because I don't want her thinking she's less than. I don't want her to think she's less than beautiful because her hair is curly and it's not straight, because she has brown skin and not fair, you know, whatever that looks like. And so the Lord told me, he's like, okay, you write the book then. You make her a brown princess. And not only do you make, so here's the kicker. I love how God works, because he started this before she was born. When I knew I was a girl, I was in Hobby Lobby, and there's a sign that said princess, but it had all the different ways that you could talk about being a princess. It had right in the middle, daughter of the king.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Loved, treasured, adored, victorious. Okay, all of these things. And the Lord said, I want you to tell her, yes, because she's a princess, but she's a princess because she's my daughter. She's royalty. We are royal people. We're a holy nation. And I want her to understand she's not just a princess because she's cute and she can put on a big dress and put on dressy things. No, she's a princess because she's the daughter of the King of Kings. So it makes her royalty already.
I love
so
that.
he gave me that understanding. That's how I did it in the book. And I made the representation. Like I said, representation matters. I made it look just like her. And it was such a treasure to her. And it's been such a treasure to so many girls that look like her, because a lot of times you just don't see that. And if I add this in as a testimony, a friend of mine used that book for a little girl in South Africa. She zoomed with this little girl in South Africa and used that book to lead her to the Lord and her mother.
Wow.
So, no, and it goes back to Martin Luther King. You never know. It's never about us. It is about us, but it isn't about us.
Exactly.
It's always going to be about what is the eternal weight? What is the eternal payoff for whatever we do?
And so he knew that. And he knew that. And he knew that. And I know that he didn't know that at the beginning, but as he was going through his process, absolutely, and the focus and the lens started to clear up for him, and the focus in, he knew, you know, that this was what was going to happen. So it's interesting to watch his life from the beginning,
absolutely, you
know, to the end, where he absolutely knew the night before. I'm so glad that you shared that with us. And we actually gave the book to another little Black girl yesterday. Awesome. And when she opened it, first of all, she was just really thrilled to know that she got a book from the author of the book. Oh. and when she opened it, she just lit up. And that's one of the things that we can thank Dr. King for. Not just Dr. King, but as Auntie Genoa was saying earlier, all the people who prayed for him, all the people of his village, all the people that, you know, were there to undergird and help us all get to the next level. And you're right. I can remember all of our coloring books and all of our books, our reading books. Yeah. You know, everybody was white. And my mother, excuse me, who had built a elaborate library for us. When she was younger, she was, you know, they didn't have a lot of money and they couldn't afford books. And so she said, you know, when I get older, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to get all the books I want. And that's all she wanted ever, no toys or anything else. So she said, also, when I have children, I'm going to build them an elaborate library. And she did. And we had all these books around us, but all of the picture books had white kids. And so my mother politely got a brown Crayola crayon and start coloring all the books. So we had all these books with, like, you know, representation. I wanted to bring Auntie Rose in because actually Auntie Rose is the guardian of the little girl that I gave the book to. And tell us a little bit about what that experience was when she got her book.
Oh
Aw.
my gosh, she was so thrilled. And you know what? Just seeing yourself. And the first thing she said is, what did she say? She looks like me. That's the first thing.
The first
It-
thing.
She was thrilled. And you know what? I just kind of want to skip over that a little bit because I want to go back to what you were saying early, Auntie Paige, about
Yeah,
how
please,
the
please.
examples that he did, and a lot of things is because of his sacrifice. And you know, and I saw the documentary with Michelle Nichols, I think that's her last name, and she played Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek.
Mhm.
And she was having so many problems on that show because, you know, first of all, they didn't like the fact that you had a young black woman as a lieutenant.
Right.
Was unheard of. Of course, today, of course, you know, you have many, but back then it was unheard to have a black woman in charge. And she was getting so many bad fan mail and just a lot of bad hate towards her regarding that role, and she was going to quit. But it was Martin Luther King that told her, and he understood how powerful the television was and what it was going to be. So this is just another example how he said, no, don't quit. You are representing us. You're not in a role of a mammy or
That's
something
right.
that we had to take. You are in a role where there's prestige. I mean,
You're a commander.
yes, you are, you know, and today we have that. We have that.
Yes,
But he
yes.
made it clear because she was going to quit because of all the hate that was being spewed her way. So I'm saying that's another avenue, but that's just not that's a single event because I'm sure a lot of people probably heard about it.
Oh yeah.
But there's so many other unnamed events that because of this movement, because of this, that was born, and then we were able to elevate. So yes, but going back to my daughter, yes, she loved it. And I'm so appreciative, and because the first thing she said was, you know, she looks like me, you know, and that touched my heart right there because I know how it feels to see commercials and different things, and no one looked like you. And I remember this commercial was like years ago, not old enough, so Auntie Angela, not old enough because I didn't experience the colored water fountain and
Right. No, we weren't there for that.
None of us was there, but we know of it because of the history. But what I was saying was going back to her, how she just it lit her up. And the commercial I was talking about was this white woman, and they had a comb, and the comb just kind of glided down her hair.
Oh no! I think I know where this is going.
And you know what? I'm just, you know, it's just an example of how I looked at that, and I'm like, well, that's not happening with me because I did literally, not thinking of anything, took the comb and it didn't move. But you know, I'm not saying it as a joke because I know the strength and the power in my hair.
No, I'm relating because it's happened to all of us at one time or another, or the teeth of the comb broke. Right, or something like that. So I'm not making light, but I'm relating. Like we've all been through that. Yeah, but but finish your story though.
No. So I mean, when I saw that, so to see that she could see herself, and there was nothing to compare. Like when I, like I said, I did put that comb and it didn't move, and I was like, well, why not? Why is it not going down? Because there was no representation. I mean, you know, I didn't see enough of myself. You know, and it wasn't, I just didn't. So to see her in that light and to see her like so proud and so happy and just lit up, you know, it was good for me, made me feel good about it.
Yes.
I understand those little things that count, that movement helped us.
Yes, that little step that makes a gateway for the next step. And that's what his life did for us. And that's what that movement did for us. And my concern, though, is that there are still so many of us who, and I don't mean to be a skeptic, although, you know, I'm a realist, right? And there are so many of us who want to get past where we are to the good part. Let's just talk about all the achievements. Let's talk about the strengths. And we do need to talk about those things because they are the foundation that catapults us to the next step that we have to take. They give us strength, to go on. Our testimony of the last thing that happened always gives us strength to do it again, right? Or do it better. So I'm going to read just a little bit from the book to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And I'm going to ask our producer, DY, to come on back in while I'm reading. It's fine. And I'm on page 20 at the bottom. So it says, stay woke. This is the mantra of this current generation. Here's the conundrum. In order to stay woke, we must first have to be woke. But again, so many of us are sleepwalking, stumbling around in the dark, bumping our heads and stubbing our toes, refusing to acknowledge the pain, and too afraid to really wake up to our personal pain. So for those who think they are woke, what are they really woke to? When Ralph Ellison wrote, "When I discovered who I am, I'll be free," I believe he meant that until and unless we discover who we are, what's inside of us, and what we're meant to do, we'll continue to be relegated to grope around in unilluminated spaces, blind to our true power, our inheritance, believing we're woke while drifting along comatose. The blood, sweat, tears, and deaths of our ancestors account for the respect that this conversation truly deserves. Their sacrifices are worthy of a slight pause, at least. A moment of dedicated silence, a short trip back to the past of clear, focused reflection, not just a skipping along the waters of where we are now and how great things are, and let's hustle and grind our way to the next bag. It is overwhelmingly due to the legacy of slavery that we collectively continue to live in this nightmare, right here on the soil where our ancestors were terrorized. Statistically, the majority of Black Americans are alarmingly undereducated, impoverished, unskilled, and believe they are powerless to take full advantage of the opportunities America affords. We have regressed to the very past that we had hoped to overcome and leave behind. We are wounded at the essence of our beings, but too afraid to face the wounds that keep us bound. Even those among us who have managed to achieve extraordinary feats of financial success are often psychologically and emotionally impaired, schizophrenic, or insane because money has become their god and they've lost touch with reality. We can and must wake up. Waking up requires facing the wounds within: rage, resentment, anger, fear, jealousy, shame, and so many others, which have to be named in order to be purged. And so that's what I mean when I say that we have to look beneath the surface of our ancestors' lives. We have to look beneath the surface of what we think we see, because even those who look like they are successful, financially and otherwise, then why do we hear that they're killing themselves?
Masking
and why do we hear that they're abusing the ones they love? I'm sorry, Auntie Genoa, what'd you say?
I said masking and pretending.
Masking and pretending, that's a big wound. That's one of the big wounds. And it comes out of the fear of facing the pain. And so that's why this platform and all of the platforms that come out of Healing the Wounds of American Slavery and Heaven on Earth Empire and platforms like Angela's Focused show are the shows that aren't afraid to go there. We look at the injury. We look at the wounds. Yes, we want to celebrate this man. After all, I mean, fun fact, he is the only American, really listen, white, black, green, brown, red, otherwise.
That's right.
The only American with a national holiday besides American presidents.
Yes.
Let that sink in for a second. And that deserves to be celebrated.
Oh yeah, of course.
But underneath that, just watch how this thing plays out. underneath that is how long it took and the struggle that it took to get his day, his birthday, a national holiday. It took 30 years after his assassination. 30 years. And that was some struggle, some blood, sweat, and tears. And that's what I believe it was Auntie Rosemary earlier was saying, how his wife has kept his legacy alive. And that was one of the things that she was involved in. I mean, heavily involved in, she and his children and the entire village and community surrounding the Kings. So, and really the nation, the nation of those of us who are sane enough to know that the man deserved the holiday. So
I want to bring up another point.
Yes.
Actually, Auntie Genoa's brought that point up. But I just want to go back to what you were saying about his wife. Now, just imagine him giving that speech on the mountaintop, you know, knowing what is going on, and his wife hearing that. What is going on through her mind? Now, I'm sure there was many times where they, you know, had God told them what was going to happen, or certain things, the Holy Spirit, you know, they were, I just know it. I just feel it in myself. I don't know that for sure, but based on that mountaintop speech, his wife, like any other wife, would hear that, knowing this is my husband and how long do we have?
Right.
You know, that something says she had to endure. You know, that's another thing, you know, with that speech, because that speech was so powerful. It brings chills today. And you can feel, when I say you can feel the passion in that speech, it is there. It's there. And it's,
can you imagine the phone call?
No denying.
Can you imagine the phone call? Can you imagine the phone call?
Yeah.
You know, prior to his taking the podium.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine, like, you know, if it were myself and my husband, you know, and we're talking and he's letting me know he's in Memphis. I'm, you know, back home with the kids. And, you know, first of all, it's going to be a strike, and that's already precarious and dangerous. And now I'm finding out that he's sick on top of all of that. And I'm telling him, just like you felt, you know, something, she probably had a premonition too. I mean, we do as well. We do all the time. And just what if she would have told him, you know what, I really don't want you to go. Go on and go to bed, get some rest. You know, I know you're going to go to the strike because I know you, you know. And so, you know, just he's in the bed, he's resting. And then now he's up, dressed, going to the hall or the church or wherever this was. I mean, just that can you imagine the anguish? And then if we really look, like in my book, I talk about how our hearts are broken as a people. And so that's why we have the highest incidences and statistics of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, all the things that, you know, have to do with our hearts. And when I look at what happened with his family, his mother being shot in the church at the organ on a Sunday. Can you imagine? You're getting ready to have church. Somebody comes in, and this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother at the organ. So this is his kid's grandmother. Their grandmother's assassinated. Their father is assassinated. And now we know that Yolanda, his firstborn child, at the age of 50, was going to see her brother Dexter at his best friend's house. She comes into the house, tells him she's not feeling well. She drops dead right there. And although it was inconclusive, the findings were inconclusive, her family said that we know that it had everything to do with her heart.
Yes.
So when we look at what happens, same thing with, if I parallel that to a Tatiana Jefferson. We talked about her on the last show. A Tatiana Jefferson, the young 20-something-year-old woman who was in the house with her nephew in her own bedroom playing video games. And somebody put in one of those care calls. What do you call that?
Wellness check.
A wellness check with the police. They go around to the back of her house. and instantaneously anyway, kill her in front of her nephew. She dies. Shortly thereafter, her mother dies of a heart-related disease. Her father dies of a heart-related disease.
Wow.
Her sister, who is the mother of the 8-year-old, now 11-year-old, 3 years later, is dying of a heart-related disease. As we're scrolling past on Facebook, on Instagram, on all of these platforms, and we see, if we watch Shaun King or Lee Merritt, any of the civil rights activists or attorneys who are close to these families of police brutality, right? Then we see how it affects these families up close and personal. We see. And so while this is definitely a celebration, it's definitely a celebration. And we want to get to that point where we do leave with some hope. The hope is that we've come this far, right? So we know we can. To get to the next level, I say it's going to take a certain level of unity.
Yes.
But in order to reach that level of unity, we're going to have to deal with these wounds. Because what I'm finding is happening in our communities is that these wounds are meeting up with each other and hitting each other like backwards magnets. And, you know, the killings and the suicides and all of those things that are occurring in our communities have everything to do with these wounds of American slavery.
Yes.
And so I believe with all my heart that Dr. King would be so proud of this show.
Yes.
That Dr. King would be so proud of Angela and her show Focus. That Dr. King would be so proud of the way that Rosemary comports herself as queen of the film of a black, what is it called? Biblical Films. Biblical Films Network.
Yes.
And all of the plays and the many thousands of young people that she's affected with the work that she does.
Wow.
And Auntie Genoa with just her creations and the way that she takes young people under her wings and the way that she has raised her family and the way that they in turn are raising their families to the best of their abilities. If she had not been in place creating, like we said, that foundation,
Yes.
you know, then things could be, and we're still here. And so every day that we wake up and we have breath in our bodies, we know that there's something we need to be about doing. So I would say, like Dr. King, and this is what fascinates me the most about the man. He just refused to quit.
Yes. Thank God.
Yeah.
He just refused to quit, in spite of the fact that it was affecting his marriage, and in spite of the fact that it was affecting his children, his own family.
Yes.
In spite of the fact that I'm sure there were so many days he did not want to do it.
Yes.
I just rather just jump on a plane and go home and play in the living room with my children, like this one brother, Pola, what's his last name? Pola Elimel or something like that. He's the one who did the portrait of the King family on the front of the New Yorker this year. And it is a beautiful portrait. It's on our flyer if you want to go and look on our flyer on Facebook.
Yeah.
It is beautiful, but he doesn't have on the suit and the black tie and the white shirt and that grim look, that stern look, like I gotta go out here and buck up against these white folks. And it wasn't even the white folks as much as the system. It was the system.
Yeah.
Right? Because there were white people marching with him.
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't that. But I got to go out here and buck up against this system and not be with my own family, you know. But on this portrait, he's just there, and Coretta's not even there on the cover. It's just he and his beautiful children enjoying a moment of him just being, as the painting is titled, the family man. It's beautiful, and it's done by a brother from South Africa.
Wow.
And a young brother from South Africa. And I was thinking it was really interesting that they selected him, but I'm glad they did, because it is gorgeous. And they interviewed him, and he was saying how in South Africa, the way that they educated their children about Martin Luther King Jr. was from that very political activist POV. So that's why when he did the artwork, he just addressed him as a family man.
Mhm.
So that's what I celebrate him today as a family man.
Of
I
course.
celebrate him today as our big brother.
Yeah.
I celebrate him today as a man who never quit. I celebrate him as a man who went through all the sacrifices and all the foundational work that he had to go through in order to get where he went to take us where we are. I celebrate him just as Martin.
Yes. Yes.
And God
Can you
did get the
imagine
glory out of his life.
I'm sorry,
did
say that again.
And God did get the glory out of his life.
God,
Yeah.
the absolute glory.
Powerful. That's so powerful.
That is so powerful. What an example.
What an example.
What an example of how to run your race all the
Yeah.
way to the end, never quit, letting God get all the glory in every ounce, every drop of juice.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You think about squeezing grapes, like every ounce. That's a powerful legacy.
It really is.
And what he was building toward was not it. I think it was Angela who said it really had nothing to do with it has nothing to do with us, and it had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Which is why it's challenging for me that, people tend to only celebrate him twice a year, on his birthday, and then in that short month, 28 days.
Right.
And interesting, I think we said it on one show, but it bears repeating on today that, Black History Month was really originally only a week.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
and it was formed and fought for by Carter G. Woodson, who wrote Miseducation of the Negro. And so, and every inch is a fight. So we can't pretend, right? Like we're in this post-racial society. Well, we've had a Black president now, and our children will never know anything other than, it's no. We have to sometimes take our children back when they're ready, because Angela's are obviously too young, right now. And Rosemary's is obviously too young. But, as children are coming along, I love what you said too, Angela. You were saying, how you just bring it about in the portions that they can handle.
Absolutely. Something you said that just really stood out to me just now is, we talked about his sacrifice and how he saw the eternal weight of what he was doing. And I think for me, his legacy is so powerful because when I do things, we are only here, if you will, in time for a moment.
A vapor.
It's just a vapor. This life is but a vapor. And you want to think about, what am I leaving for eternity? This man changed the way our world operates. One man, just like Jesus, one man. And so when you think about that and you think about your decisions and your legacy and what we choose to do, like you said, it makes you want to run your race. You correctly run and obtain that prize and endure to the end. And so that's really powerful. Like you just said, it was something else I was going to say, and I just completely lost my train of thought. So I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to come back.
No, it's okay. And it really, what you just did is you really inspired me, because, there's so many days I do not want to. And I promise you all, I thought that I was just going to write the book, Healing the Wounds of American Slavery, and put it out there. And then, okay, now y'all go do what you're going to do with it. And then one day I got the message that spirit to spirit, I got the message that no, girl, you've got to go out here and talk about this thing now. And not only that, but what's most powerful that I really appreciate, and I will be walking in the vein of Martin Luther King Jr., is that now there's an opportunity to take the book into the prison system. And I'll be doing that mid-February. And at first I thought, oh, what a great opportunity to do this thing. But the more I think about it, just like Dr. King, he didn't know what his foundation was being built for. And as he was going through the process, he couldn't see the whole thing. What does the word say? That we see through a glass darkly. If God showed us everything about the vision, we would run and hide.
Yes, ma'am.
And now, piece by piece, in portions, just like with your children, God's doing it with his child Paige, he's showing me that this is what's next. I want you to reach my babies behind bars.
Yes.
I want you to take this book in there. Go ahead, Angela.
No, I was just going to say, and that is what you're saying about doing that and being obedient. Our obedience is so important because it's not always just about us. It's about somebody else. It could be about a nation. It could be about a family. I think about Joseph and the fact that he had a dream, if you will. And when God gave Joseph that dream, he used that dream to bless a nation. He showed the famine that was coming. And he said, store up now. What if he would have said, well, I'm good and I ain't worried about nobody else. We're going to be all right, but I ain't worried about nobody else. And he wouldn't have been obedient to God in that dream. His family was touched even through, and look at how they was done. They sold him into slavery.
Right.
Same thing with Martin Luther King. People that hated him, people that were out to get him. He saw the bigger picture and he saw greater. And his obedience affected a nation. And it's the same thing with Joseph. And so I'm saying all that to say that sometimes our obedience, it may be hard and it may be difficult, but it's not about us. It's about the legacy that we're living. There's a quote that I always use, and it's from the movie The Gladiator, but it just spoke to me. It says, what we do in life echoes in eternity. I love that because it is so true. The decisions that we make, they're eternal.
So true.
We're here temporary, but our life is eternal. And so what we do in this life, it echoes in eternity. So it is important that we leave that legacy and that we are obedient. So I thank you for your obedience. When God's telling you to go into those places, you don't know who you're going to affect.
That's right. And who they will affect. That's right.
Exactly. And then the legacy carries on. So awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And also at the end of the day, it's really about your gifts and your talents.
Come on.
Because a lot of people think, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. Oh God, you know what, Paige, you're doing all these wonderful things. Oh, Angela, you're doing all these wonderful things. Oh, you guys. But at the end of the day, it's really, sometimes all you have is what's literally right in front of your face. Or as the word said, when Moses went in front of the burning bush, God said, what's that in your hand? It's about what you have in your hand, your gifts, your talents. And so if you're looking to find your purpose, you're looking to really get down into your mission, your ministry, if you will, then some people don't call it a ministry. I mean, they just think it's a purpose, and that's okay. That's okay. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to your design. What did God send you here with? What are your gifts? What are your talents? And just start using those. And they will begin to inform you. Like when I was little, I mean, baby, you could give me a pen and some paper and I would be on the floor just writing and writing. Little baby Paige didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to spell. I didn't know how to do anything. I knew how to write a few letters, and I would just be writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. Other kids would be outside playing. I'm writing and writing and writing. And who knew? Who knew?
So powerful.
So in that light, let's all do like Dr. King. Let's look to our gifts. Let's look to our talents. Let's look to our God. Let's look to our village. And let's really look to healing from the wounds that are holding us back. Because trust me, I know I've been talking about this and writing about this for 20 years now, researching it deeply. I know that these wounds exist. I know how they operate. I know their personality, their character, and how they relate between two people, right? Causing the most damage and the most friction to communities, causing the most damage and the most friction. And so we just need to start there, not being afraid to look at the pain, because, you know, it's the same as having surgery. Like, you wouldn't know to have surgery if you didn't know you had pain.
So good.
Right? So, and this is a surgery. It is a surgery because we're talking about purging these wounds. And the first thing that I think, you know, for me, the first thing that began this process for me, that opened that valve to begin to release some of this stuff, was just really being authentic with myself, being transparent with myself.
Oh yeah.
And then just being willing to cry about it. Just come clean, just be willing to cry, be willing to feel the pain. So we are definitely at the top of our hour. I want to thank every single viewer who's watching right now. Y'all have been awfully quiet out there. Maybe because we had so much to say today. But I want to also thank our very special guest, Angela Mayberry Duncan. Be sure to go and get her book, Nyella is a Real Princess. That's Nyella, a book written about her very own beautiful princess daughter, Brown Princess, and also her Focus, a 30-day strategic prayer and devotional guide. And do not fail to get Healing the Wounds of American Slavery. And wait, y'all, now it's on audio. So you can go on Amazon and Audible, and I will read the book to you.
Right.
I want to thank Auntie Rosemary, and I also want to thank Auntie Genoa for always bringing so much wisdom to the table, so much love, and so much of their own experiences. We're definitely going to be inviting you back again, Angela.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please do.
And please watch her show, Focus. She's on Facebook, and you just go in and put in Angela Mayberry Duncan or Focus, and they'll both pop up, right? The show will pop up, and she has amazing topics, like really amazing topics. So thank you so much to each and every one of you. Thank you to our producer, DY. And we'll see you again next week on Monday at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And remember, we are your favorite aunties. You can tell us anything, but there's a way to say everything. Good night. Hey, DY.
How you doing?
Oh, yeah. Hello. Wonderful show.
Thank you.
You're still live.
Just thought I'd pop in and say that.
Hit
Take us out, DY.
Yeah, you're still
All
live.
right. All right, let's go.
Hey, Auntie.
What's up, baby? You know you can tell Auntie anything.